All right, started off, I was really proud of the way we played Saturday against Northwestern with all the different challenges we faced throughout the game. Anytime you take an offense like that who's was averaging 170 yards a game rushing and hold them to 61 and 242 yards total, and it's a good football team and it's a good offense. And the other, we were 2 of 12. They were 2 of 12 on third down. That played a big role. We held them to 3 field goals in the red zone. I'm just trying to bring them off the top of my head here. And then obviously the key 2 4-minute stops, which is a rarity in football, period. So I was really pleased with our guys' attitude, our effort throughout the entire game, and different guys at different times, stepped up and made plays. It was pretty cool to see, the play that JY made, the different guys that, jumped out and were celebrating with him on the sideline. But also when you look at that end zone shot on the all-22, you had JY out there who made the play. Everybody saw that. But you had, Chase Taylor and Wu, 2 freshman linebackers in there. You had Jay Sand at the other corner. We had a lot of young guys in there at a pivotal time of the game, and they came up big. So, that was exciting. And like I said, I was just really happy for the players and, how they stood up to every challenge. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Start on the left with Isaiah.
I was actually going to ask about you playing so many young players at pivotal key times. What's allowed them to be in key moments, and what's kind of been your philosophy this year about getting those guys in?
Well, I think that it's, number one with me, it's the trust in the assistant coaches. I think we got a great staff. I always tell you guys that, and that those guys have done a tremendous job of building up their room. And taking what they have in their room, and we're reaping the rewards from it, now later on, towards the end of the season. If they put them out there, I got confidence in them because I got confidence in the assistant coaches. And like I said, both the players and the coaches have been outstanding this year.
We'll go to Austin here on the right.
Where are things at with Rod? You got him back for a couple of games, haven't had him for a few weeks. Are you hopeful that you'll get him back?
I don't know where Rod's at. I think that's a Sharon question.
And then in terms of this defense and the improvement that you guys have made since the USC game, where have you seen that the most?
Well, I think there's, all 11, we've gotten better of who's ever in there. And this week's going to be another great challenge for us because it's a loose play offense. They play in space, and they have some really good athletes out there. So it's going to be a great challenge for us. So I think that when you just attack the fundamentals of the game, that especially in November, you can't get bored with high pad, with low pad level. Like a lot of the guys, I always point out to the players. Later on in the season, you see teams playing higher and higher as it goes because it's hard to keep that discipline for that long. And I think that's what you're seeing with the guys up front. They're playing with great pad level. And when they don't play with great pad level, it shows up. There's a lot of guys who played some of their best football. And to win in November, you need your best players playing their best football. Rayshawn Benny comes to mind for me. Trey Pierce, those guys inside, Derek Moore, Jay Sean, all those guys. They're playing really well, and we're in a good rhythm, and we'll ride this thing as long as we can.
On the left, Anthony.
Not singling out any position coaches or anything, but with Lamar's group in particular, how impressive is it that he's had as many young guys on that back end as ready to play as they have been?
Yeah, it's impressive, but it's not surprising when Lamar and Stokes and Behawk, and he'd also mention those two as well. They're a great team back there in the back end. Stokes, he does the red zone stuff for us, and he's great for me upstairs. He's a calming influence for me upstairs because he does the personnel and does those things, and Behawk's done a fantastic job as well. But Lamar's done a great job, and we've had to play musical chairs back there, which you've all seen.
On the left, Chris.
What goes into rotating and for example, when you've got Derek and Jay Sean out there making plays at a high level? And then are there set numbers of plays that you want for each guy during a game, or is it you just kind of wing it during a game?
I think that, Fee, obviously his experience of playing and now coaching, he's going to keep them fresh so that they can make the big time plays when we need to make them. And what you're seeing is that, the other guys, that, the Cam Brants and the Doms and TJs, they're making plays when they're out there as well. So it's been a fun thing to watch. So there's no set number of plays. Like Jimmy was on a rep count, coming back from injury, but that was the only one.
In the back there, Alejandro.
Wink, it feels like Jair has gotten to a point where offenses aren't targeting him or his receiver quite as much. What have you been most impressed by from what you've seen from him?
I think that the guy's just growing up right in front of our eyes as far as a player, and he loves football, and you can just see the way that how he plays the game. He has confidence. He's to the point now in his career that if he gives up a reception, he gets mad, and that's right where you like your corners.
We'll run right here, John.
Oh, with Fee, what was that about him that made you want to bring us the coach in the first place? How have you seen him grow this year?
Oh, I mean, he's a stud. I mean, he's been that way as a player, and he's just great people, and he's my guy. I've been around him. I've known him for so long. I know it was a home run when we were able to get him. I think it's big, for the players that he's coaching, that you have a guy who's done it the way he's done it, and have the career that he had, and he's having fun with it, and those kids work their tail off for him.
We'll run right, man.
Wayne, looking back on the USC game, how much of a wake-up call do you think that performance was for everyone?
I mean, we keep bringing that up, but it was a bad game. I think that that you're going to have a bad game. Better early than late. We had too many missed tackles, and I think that it's one of those things you find out the true character of who you're coaching and who you're coaching with. And like I said, I love the staff that we have here, and the trust that we have in each other, and you just got to go back to work, and that's what makes this game so great, is seeing those type of challenges after those type of games.
Angelique.
What about the character of the players after that game? And Trey was talking about how other teams might have folded after that loss, but this team obviously did not.
Which Trey?
Williams.
Okay, yeah, I think that I think how you handle it as a coaching staff feeds down to the players. There was no panic. Like I put on our sheet that that I'd go over the kids, with the positive stuff. I said, never have, never will. We didn't flinch. Never have or never will. We just fix it and go play the next play. And it doesn't matter how we have to go out there or why we have to go out there. We just go out there and do the best we can do and play as hard as we can play. And sometimes they make plays, and sometimes we make plays. That's why they tune in.
And on Derek Moore, he had those 3 games with 2 sacks in each. How has he elevated his game, and how do you see his taking that to the next level?
Well, I think, especially this time of year, for you to win, your best players have to play the best. And I think he is. And, I know the way with fantasy football and everything else, how it is everybody just bases it off of sacks, and it's his physicality that he brings in, every day to practice and to the games. And, with both he and Jay Sean, our defense feeds off their physicality. And, it's not easy to set the edges in the run game and convert to pass and, all of those other things, especially in tight games, where the offenses have their entire playbook open. But, he's been a leader for us. You're not going to see him call a meeting like on the middle of the field and, give some passionate, Ray Lewis speech, but you can see how he plays, and that's passionate enough for me, and the other players feed off of it.
On the right, Charles.
Yeah, what have you seen from the Maryland quarterback, and what are the keys to slowing him down?
It's hard to slow him down. He gets rid of the ball quick. He's got a strong arm. he's a talented kid, and it's going to be a tough challenge for us.
And TJ Metcalf mentioned kind of trying to force interceptions out of him because he's shown that. What's the key to doing so?
Well, I think that if we all knew the keys to that, we'd have about 4 or 5 picks a game. But I think that it's a combination of things. You can't let him feel comfortable in the pocket, and you need to reroute receivers and show him different pictures in the back end. So a lot of those interceptions were early, and he's playing really well right now.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
On the left, Chris?
If you could pick one thing where you said, okay, this is what I really want this defense to improve in the last 2 games, what would it be?
One thing, run, hit, rinse and repeat. Tackle well, fundamentally sound, and like I said, play with the confidence that you've earned.
On the right here, Ryan.
I know Maryland is the priority this week, but how much goes into?
I'm focused on Maryland. You can't afford to do anything else. It's really is, it's turning into, we're in playoff football mode, and it's that part's getting closer to the NFL than anything else. So we know what's ahead, and it's still all out in front of us. So we got to have a great Tuesday, a great Wednesday, a great Thursday, a great Friday before we go down to Maryland. And I like the rhythm that we're in defensively, in all aspects of it, in preparation and everything else. So it's going to be a fun game to watch, like they all are.
Did you watch the latest rankings last night?
No, it doesn't matter until the end. So we'll see what happens. I was watching Third Down, Maryland. Hope you enjoyed the show.
We've got time for a few more questions. We'll start with Tony.
Who else besides quarterback sort of pops on?
The receivers are very talented. Their skill is very talented across the board. And they're all capable of making a big play at any time. So that puts a lot of stress, at least on the defensive coordinator, but it puts a lot of stress on your defense too. You have to tackle well. You have to play with great effort and angles. All the pillars that we talk about, and like I said, in November is when you have to play with your best fundamentals, your best technique, and execution, and communication, and then the list goes on and on.
And all due respect to your last answer, but because we won't get you moving forward, I know you're focused on the here and now, not just this week, but not looking back. But it seems like you really relished that opportunity against Ohio State last year, and a lot of people were calling it sort of a master class, I guess. What does it mean to prepare for those?
Every year's different. Every year's different. So we'll see, when that time comes, of the situation for it and everything else. There's so many different variables that go into it. So it's like I said, we're focused on Maryland, and we haven't spoken anything about the next game.
On the right, Austin.
You mentioned it earlier, but that sense of being in playoff mode wasn't necessarily the case at this time last year. Do you notice something different just in the building around the guys?
I mean, yesterday what do the kids say? We were vibing. All right, did I sound cool saying that? You don't know. Right. But there's an energy and a focus that you have, at this time of year, and we had it last year too. But there's definitely, they know that everything they've worked for is still all out in front of them. So we'll see what happens.
Last question is Zach.
Can you just talk about the linebacker room and how they've kind of dealt with the adversity of a lot of injuries and working through all that?
Yeah, I think that we're talking about assistants. I say that about all the assistants, but BJ's done a great job. I said it back in training camp, of retooling that room, getting the guys that fit our personality, and it's been fun to watch. It's really been fun to watch.
Do you know Hamilton?
Yeah, I know him, but we don't sit down and have beers in the off season or anything.
Who do you sit down and have beers with in the offseason?
What's that?
Who do you sit down and have beers with in the offseason?
Anybody on the golf course that wants to play golf.